Yasujiro Ozu, the director who appeared multiple times on the Sight and Sound poll, Roger Ebert's Great Movies list, and other collections of great movies put into written form. He directed Tokyo Story, An Autumn Afternoon, a number of great films. But I had the immense pleasure recently of watching Early Spring. And for those of you who are collectors of the Criterion Collection, this is included in the DVD Late Ozu pack, along with Tokyo Twilight, Equinox Flower, Late Autumn, and The End of Summer. And this is one of his best films, and this very quickly made it to my top 100 personal favorite. The story is simple on the surface. Sugiyama faces a boring, thankless job. Let's say it's not even clear exactly what that job is, and it really doesn't matter. In the process of being busy and living a complicated life that we don't know a lot about, we get indications of some of his past, and the film clues us in as we go. He's grown passively distant from his wife, and that's obvious in their interactions. As a result, the key drama centers around an affair he has with a jubilant girl nicknamed Goldfish. And I really like that name and what that name ends up implying as the story goes along. We should have, let's say, a routine television episode. However, when it comes to Yasujiro Ozu, he created a masterpiece, a great film at about 2.5 hours. Ozu, through this matter-of-fact dialogue and the characters that he refuses in any way, especially in this film, to demonize, is always able, in my opinion, to present real people on the screen that I like to think of as being simultaneously cogs in the machine and sort of a result of that devastating, difficult economic machine that spits them out in the end. For example, and this is probably true for how many of us feel working, there's this concept that comes up over and over again of this salaried worker. And it's unclear for me exactly what that means in the context of Japan at that time. But of course, here in the United States, we have other terms. We have skilled versus unskilled, college, blue collar, white collar. Like there are all these different terms for what kind of worker you are, what flavor of worker you are. And sometimes there's a worth or a social stigma placed or not placed on that. And I think that in the grander scheme of things, in the more universal scheme of things, Ozu's poking a little bit of fun at how trivial those designations can be, even if we assign them a particular cultural impact. Love that about the film. In many ways, the affair in this film, it's a coincidence, I think, of this droning lifestyle as a worker. And even though it is a repulsive act, and it is, the affair is treated seriously, the characters will still smile, still show courtesy, and still show a sense of etiquette even when discussing the affair, whether that's the people involved or someone talking about it. And I think Ozu was the master of balancing these everyday realities with the kind of drama that really could dagger you right to the heart. I think some of the reason for this, and I've talked about this in other Ozu videos, is because he skillfully used what we call the pillow shot, where he'll have a scene of some dramatic weight or a development in the plot, and then immediately after, he'll focus on some object or some landscape or something to give you time to absorb what you've just witnessed. It's never too long and too artsy, but it's just long enough to give you time without sulking. An example in this film that Roger Ebert commented on in his review, if I think that was Ebert, one of the reviews I read, someone said the fan. There's a picture of a fan. Something happens, right? You have one of these dramatic moments, and this fan oscillates. Interesting stuff. Factors of loss, whether that be someone from the war that's all over the place, that influences characters and their motivations and decisions. There's a death in the family of the protagonist that you'll learn about, and that has influenced all of this in a mighty way. There's a touching moment in here, and I'm actually getting a little sad just even thinking about it, but all these war buddies are around a table and they're singing a song, and they're remembering and having and sharing memories of the past and some folks who were lost. And I think it rings a little bit more true. I don't know if I want to say less stagey than like the Deer Hunter, the end of the Deer Hunter, that song. It's not that different from that, but I think it's executed better and it's less, like, let's say, sentimental. Okay. The length, I think, of this film that I talked about at about 2.5 hours, I think it's part of its strength in this case, right? Like Tokyo Story, Tokyo Twilight, those are longer films as well. And part of that's because there's not a real simple or easy solution or explanation given to why the affair happened and some of the other characters' reactions to the affair. And it kind of keeps this thing from just being a run-of-the-mill, like I said, sort of TV show episode. I think when it comes to the affair, that Ozu is as concerned, if not even more concerned, with the reactions of the other characters, their assumptions, their judgments, as much as the affair itself. Like, here's a director who wants to look at an issue, not just how it affects the individual or the individuals, but how it affects a community at large. And I think that's smart of him. You know, not everybody has an affair, but everybody's heard about one. So how are you reacting to the news yourself? And like other films of his, you'll see set pieces or pieces of a building or something obstructing the full view of the character. That happens with a shade at one point. I think this is part of the underrated visual storytelling mastery of Ozu. And so that's something you'll notice. But the best part, and the part I love about this film the most, and I've seen this in other Ozu films, he is a master of discussing life transitions. Too often films are ready to move to a new action sequence, a new grand set piece, but not with Ozu. He does it differently. He allows you to carefully absorb the difficult changes these characters face. And not only that, but he gives you the time, and he does things at a measured, deliberate pace that I think works so effectively in his films. And Early Spring truly had me reeling by the end. This is a somber but sometimes funny film that I absolutely love, which is not unusual for me watching Ozu films. I highly recommend. And even if you don't get the DVD of it, there are other versions I'm sure available. So if you liked the video today and want to give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. And tell me your thoughts on Ozu or this film, and subscribe to Cody in the Cinema.